Okay, recording is set. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me share this. So I'll be doing this for the benefit of those who might not have a text editor. So I'll quickly walk us through how to download and install VS Code. All you just need to do is go to your search engine and get for yourself a VS Code. So I'm currently using a Windows. I'll quickly download for that. And my download has begun. So let's wait while the download completes. Alright, as we wait, I will quickly demonstrate to us. Now, when it comes to building a website, there are a few concepts that we will need to know about in terms of structure. Now, every side has a head and a body. Now, inside the head consists of information about the website, usually which is not visible in the body. And the body, on the other hand, is where the whole content of your website lies. That is the part that the user interacts with, where you have the images, where you have the tables, and every other thing, the navigation, and all other details that the user can see. And one of the things that you can find on your heading is your styling, and you can find some secondary links on your heads and other metadatas. All right, so a typical web structure looks something like this, and this structure is how your browser interprets the content of your web. The content within the head are not visible. The content within the body is what is visible. So a typical structure of the web looks like this. HTML, for instance, HTML usually, which has an open and close tag. Now, whatever you capture into this place is a subset to this HTML. Now, I need you to see this HTML as the parent of whatever else you want to put in that body. So in between your HTML tags, you can have tags like, remember we said the head, and a body. There is a body and close the body. Now, and also there are tags in HTML that comes in pairs. Example are the one you are seeing on the screen, like the ordered list, the unordered list, the table, and all other tags that comes in pairs. And there are other tags that are called void tags. Those ones, they are self-closing. They don't have a pair as the head and body and all other ones. So in between your body, did I put body here? Head here, right? Now, a typical example of what can be on the head is the title. Every page has a title. The title of your page. And we have the body. Let me create some space here. So this is the body contents. This is where your whole block of code lies. Okay, let me quickly check my VS Code. I think it has done, it's done generating. I'm only doing this for the sake of those who have not installed VS Code. So you can just click on next. Okay, she's already added to path. So if you want to create a desktop shortcut, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you just click on next and install. It is good that you add your file to paths. If not, you will just run your code and you discover it should not run it. Okay, while we wait for the installation to complete, so an example of what can be in the body is your section. Let me close that. Your navigation, which is nav, and then close that. You can also have your footer. I forgot something. You can have your header. You can have your div, which is for division. You use it to divide your layout. Your div. And you can have other inline tags too, like your span tags, and so on. Now, this is the basic structure of every web page. No matter how complicated the website may look, this is the basic structure of that page. Now then, it's also good that we have a picture of what we are trying to build before you even start writing your code. It is good that you know the structure of what you want to build. You take your pen and paper, draw out your layout, and try to see how you can achieve that on paper, then before you even start writing your code. Now I try to see how we can make sense out of this class. So what we'll be doing is I will just get something not too big. Maybe let's see what YouTube has to offer. Now if I go to a typical YouTube page, let me see, let's get something out of here. Okay, let me just quickly sign in. Okay, if you look at this page, this part, the upper part here, that is the header. This is a navigation, these are buttons, and these are layout. All this environment visible to you is your body. Now if you look at the tab here, there is a name on it. That part, that information is being contained on your header, and this is the title. Just like from the structure that we have here, you see this is the head, and we in between that we have the title. Now I will see how we can demonstrate some of this information on this place. As a web developer, a few things you need to put into consideration. There is an understanding that you must have. You must have the understanding of the basic structure. That one is checked already. Then you must also understand layout, and there are two types of layout. We have the grid layout and the flexible layout. If you look at this YouTube page, for instance, I can see the left navigation, I can see the header, and then I can see also the body. But look at what happened here. If I should minimize and then I shrink, you will discover the layout change. If I increase it a bit and I keep increasing, you see it has also changed. And then if I go on to increase, it also changes. What you will note, if I give it up is full screen, you will be seeing a grid of 3 columns right here. 1 2 3, 1 2 3. That's a 3-column grid. Now if I reduce the screen at a point, it becomes a 2-column grid, and if I go on further to reduce, you see it now becomes 1. Now this is a grid. This layout here is a grid. And if you also look at the heading part of it here, you will discover a few things. Now if I open my screen, this is my full screen. Picture how the layout are structured here. And if I also reduced the screen, now look, now initially look at the length of the text box here. You see it keeps shrinking, keeps shrinking, keeps shrinking, and it got to a point where it disappears. It disappears. But then we keep seeing the left part, which is the voice search, the create, the icon, and the profile picture there. These are dynamic layout that responds to every size of your screen. So I said you must understand the basic structure, you must understand the layout. Okay, so we'll try to see how to implement some of these things in our work, and then we'll go on from there. Also look at our hamburger menu here. If I click on this hamburger menu, you see it folds up this navigation on this corner, and if I click it again, it splits out. If I click again, it closes up. So we'll just see how we can build on this one after the other. So but then let's take a look at one of these, just a session. If I let me see if I can get a pen somewhere. Let me see if I can snip that. Let's just pick one of these. Let's work with this. Let me just snip this out. And quickly save that. Okay. Let me save this. Let me quickly save this on my desktop. Let me bring it here. All right. So I just made a screenshot of this. Now there's something you will observe about this particular preview. This is the entire preview here. But one of the things you observe about this preview is that it has a subdivision. For instance, if you look at this part, this is also another division. Let me change that color there. And another thing you observe is this is another division. Let me make it the screen. Okay. If you look at the second part of it, it's also subdivided into two. That's this one and this one. And if you want to go further, we can also divide this into maybe two or three, depending on how you want to go about it. This and this. Now, this single preview can be made using this structure. And let's see how we can put that on code. And from there, we'll develop. Now, please, I need you to open up your VS Code. Let me share my VS Code screen. Let me quickly share my VS Code screen. Okay, I'm now adding Git for now. Let me just continue without signing in, continue, and just get started. First thing first, guys, be organized, man. You don't want to be scattered. I will create a folder. I will just create a folder on my desktop. Maybe I'll call it web dev 2.0. So this folder is my website. Every website I will be building must have their folder. So because when you come to hosting, what you are hosting is you are hosting a folder that contains your site. So the term hosting is actually not uh, a big terminology. It's actually your website folder living on another person's machine. So if you are building a website for a firm, the folder, it is what you will be uploading on your net. Now for our class, this is our folder and it is located on the desktop. So I'll select on that folder and my folder is set up here. So you see on my left pane here, it reads WebDev 2.0. So I will just go on and create the folder, the sub files that my folder will be needing. Now, for instance, I will demonstrate them because I want us to start using them in as much as we are practicalizing all this. It is good that you keep yourself structured. If you have images in your folders in your website, it's good that you create a folder that will handle that. Your style, your script, you structure them in their various folder. But however, one particular file that you must create is your index. Whenever you visit any site and then you impute the link to that site, the first page that displays is your index, folder. So I will go on and just create my index.html. We're not doing anything too serious here. We're just creating the index. And first thing first, I'll just create the basic structure of my layout, just like we explained the HTML, the containing the heading and the body. And in the body, you see I have my title. So for instance, if I say uh, web dev web dev web dev 2.0. Now one other thing I need you to install here, come to your extensions here. I need you to just download, install live server. Just search for live server. This one will enable us to run our code while we write every line. So I'll just click on install right there. And yes, I trust this publisher. And then, yeah, trust and install is installing. I need that. We need that. Okay, while that is installing, we let me duplicate my screen. Let me duplicate my screen. Let me share my entire window so that you can see what I'm doing fully. Okay, so my entire window is visible now. If I go to my VS Code, while we wait for the live server to come up, visit my code. Now we are trying to build this to make this preview here, but then you discover there is an external part that take that whole layout. There are a few ways you can achieve that, but I will show you the best practice. First thing first, let's go back to that YouTube page and let me show you a few things. Maybe let's go to uh, inspect. Now if you look at this place, there are a bunch of things that you will see here. Right here. Now you see a lot of div everywhere. This site is actually built. There are technologies that are embedded in it, but then basic structure are still there. And you can see div header, div this, div that, div title container, div content. You can see div. So we can actually use div to create this layout, the entire layout. For instance, if I go back to my page now, let me see. Okay, the live server is installed. So let me just run this. Right click on that environment and you see open with live server. Let's wait. Okay, it's open now, and you will see at the very top here our title is already captured. I will just shrink that to the right a bit and then close up this part. All right, so if I, for instance, insert a paragraph here, maybe I say paragraph, I say this is a paragraph. Now if I save that, you see it automatically renders on my page. Now, whenever you want to write a paragraph, you use the paragraph tag. If I want to create a header, there are actually 6 levels of headers that you can create. For instance, you can create the H1, uh, you can create also H2, there's also an H3, H4, H5, and there's also H6. We can put this H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. So if I save that, you discover they are of different sizes. Now, one thing you need to know about this heading is that search engines look for these headings on your page to allow them gain accessibility online. Now, it is important that the keyword that will probably be what your site will be using to identify online, you use an H1 heading for that particular name. Because if you search an information on Google, for instance, maybe you even just ask, because search engine uses keyword to identify information online. So if I search for um, maybe giving, or even give. Now, what the search engine does is search through. Now, look at this record. It said about 204,000 results. What it does is it look through every resources online and identify which site has this give as an H1, and then it pull that entire site and sends it back to your client. So this is how each headers are being used. So if you use an heading one, now the results on this false layout are actually heading one. The next level to that is the heading two, and like that down to heading six. So if you have these headings, they might not be in this sequence in your page. The one that would take the prominence while searching on browsers will be on this level. Level 1 first, H1 first, followed by H2, H3 down to H6. Okay. If you want to structure your layout, one of the, aside using sections, headers, and footers, you can actually set up that with your div. For instance, let's say uh, I want to create that preview I screenshotted. Please, this is how we will do. I'll try to see if we can mimic the YouTube page. So I will be using that to explain. I will be building it at the same time. So, but then let's deal with that preview. If I say, let me have the preview, I can just get a div. Think of div as a container, just as an empty box. Okay. And in between that div, I have a, where's that preview again? Right here. This red part of it, that is the entire preview carrying the whole details. Then I have my image, and then I have my sub information here. So let's quickly generate that. So let's call this let me give it a class. Now, a class is actually how you can target a particular element for styling. An ID is how you identify or you capture a particular element for scripting. You can also use both class and ID to style, but when it comes to script, you target them by their ID. All right. But in terms of styling, when you use an ID identify an element, class identify a group of elements to style. So if you have multiple elements that you want them to share the same style, so you can give them the same class. Okay, I hope that is clear. So I will name this maybe preview. Let's call it preview since we are just previewing. And in between that, I'll create another div. I'll create another div. Let me call this one. Let me give it a class of uh, image image thumbnail, or simply thumbnail. And I have another div which is, let me give it a class of maybe let's say maybe video info, something like that. Now in between this place I have my image, just as we can see. Let me bring this to the side. All right, I have my image. I have the picture here. um, Let me quickly bring a picture on my, let me see if I can see any picture here. I think I should. Oh, I actually don't have any picture on this mission. Anyway, you get the check. So in between this place, I have my image element. Now the image elements have other attributes. I didn't say it. Let me recap this. Any additional details that you attach to a particular element, that is an attribute. For instance, on this div element, I'm giving it a class. This class is an attribute. This class is an attribute. Now, if you also look at this meta element here, it has a name and a content. These are attributes. Okay. So an image has its own attribute. For instance, it has a source, which is the location of the element you want to pull out. It can be an absolute location or relative location. The source actually is the address of that image you want to pull out, or the file path where that image is located on your machine. And that location or the path can be an absolute path or a relative path. And I will explain what it means by an absolute file path or relative file path. Then another attribute you can have is the alt or the alternate. Now the alt is actually what gets rendered if at any point your image fails to load. For instance, I try to load an image here, but let's assume I didn't put the path. Then I can just say this is an okay, this is a logo, for instance. So if at any point my page refuses to load the image, this is what gets rendered on the page. And the reason for this alt is for if the user probably is visually impaired and all the person just do is to use a screen reader, this is what the screen reads out to the user. So if my image fails to load, this will get rendered on the page. So if I save now, you discover there is an icon for the image and an information saying that this is a logo. Well, I hope that I will get that right. Why am I not seeing some image? Okay, so let's just go on. Other attribute you can add to your image are the width and the height. So we are not going to use that here, but I would like to give it maybe a class. I will give it a class of uh, uh, thumbnail. Okay, I'll give it a class of thumbnail. Okay, let me give it thumbnail. Then let me give this one thumbnail preview. So while I'm explaining, I will also go a bit into the styling. There are three ways you can style your element. You can use an embedded styling, or an external styling, or an inline styling. But then for the benefit of this class, we will move as time progresses. But for now, we're going to be using an embedded styling. An embedded styling is that styling that is contained in your head. An inline styling is that styling that is contained as an attribute within the open tag of every element. While an external styling is that type of styling that is imported from a different file on your folder. We will go there, but for the sake of this class of today, I just want everything to be on the same page. So quickly, how do I use an embedded styling? You use an embedded styling by just calling the element style, and in between that element, I will be writing all my CSS style. And the CSS style is simply cascading style sheet. And how do you target your element for styling? You target them by ID or by class, just like I mentioned. If your element has an ID, you target it by a dollar symbol. If it has a class, you target that class by a dot. All right. So for instance, let's target our preview. Since it has a class, I will use a dot preview, and then a curly brace. In between that curly brace, I'll be writing all the instruction I needed to give it to. All right. And I said, think of a div as a box. And one of the things we can do to a typical box is to set up the size and then to give it some colors. For instance, let's even give a big background color here, for instance. I'm just say blue. And if I save that, you see it appears on the page. But then let me remove this alt value here. Now, a div is a block level element. I need you to take note of that. A div is a block level element. What do I mean by a block level element? That is, it takes the entire width on your web browser. So if you are using a div, it is a block level element. There are other inline level elements. An example is a span tag that doesn't take the entire length. It only takes the exact width of its content. But for a div, is a block level element. And a block level element takes the entire width. So if I bring another div right here, let me just copy this entire block and just duplicate that, and maybe we give it another class. Let me say preview 2 right here, and let me target that dot preview 2, and then I just say background color, oh sorry, background color, let me say red. Now you discover it's going to appear under it. Preview 2, you see, because it's a block level element. So if I add another div, it will keep stacking one on top each other because they are forcing themselves to take the full length of their position on the web. So a div is a block level element. But then look at another thing here. If I change the display as an inline, sorry for that break, I was not aware my session has timed out. uh where are we? Okay, I think we're there. All right, I was explaining changing the display. Now if I change the display, set the display to inline, you will discover something, that the whole image disappears. But did it really disappear? Of course not. Let me set up a width so we can see, maybe 200 pixels. Let me also set a height of 200 pixels for this. Let me do the same to this one. Width of 200 pixels and height of 200 pixels. Okay, now how am I gonna explain this? I change the display to display inline block. Inline elements and uh in between uh text. For instance, let's say I have a paragraph here. Let me put a paragraph here, paragraph there, and say this is a paragraph. Oh, let me bring it down just somewhere here. Okay, so I can set up a div here. Div, I can wrap this paragraph in a div and then maybe give it a class of para. Let's just say para that way. And if I come here, now you see it breaks the text into two. Why? Because divs are a block level element. But now I'm trying to target it para and then change the display to inline. So if I change that display to inline, it has stopped behaving as an inline block. It's just like when you have uh, a span here, when you have a span tag, a span, a span, like when you have a span here in that paragraph. So I can actually target span.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I don't know if it's from my hand. I'm not seeing your screen.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm coming. Let me see. But you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, but the
Oh,
screen.
oh, my bad.
So I thought it was network. I had to log out, log in back, but it's still the same thing.
Okay, so sorry. I think it's from my end. How about now?
Yes, I can see now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation.
Thank you, sir. And sir, I want to ask, is the class being recorded, sir?
Yes, very well. It's been recorded.
Okay, okay, sir.
It's been
Thank you, sir.
recorded. Yes. All right. So I was explaining div. Okay, I think let me just cut it short. Maybe when I see a typical example, I'll bring back the explanation. So initially, before I added this line, this display, before I added this display, I said div element by default are a block level element. And I said block level elements. Now let me take that off. Now you see the moment I remove that block level element, you will discover, okay, let me remove all this style and maybe remove the width, just the color. All right. So this is the default state of a block level element. An example, which is a div. Now there are other elements that are also block level. For instance, like let me bring one down here. An example of a block level element is also uh, image. Image is another example of block level element. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to explain is a div is a block level element, and a block level element takes the entire width on the screen. Now, but then you can alter the default state of every element. Like for this div that is a block level, I can alter the display from a block to an inline block. Inline block simply means I want it to be side by side with every other element around it. That's what inline block does. Okay, if I set that to an inline block and then also set this, the second one, display inline block. Now it likes they disappear is because they are all inline. They've lost that default capability. Now to make them visible, I can set up a width of maybe 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. So you see, this one has appeared small. I have altered the default behavior and given it a customized width and height. And that block level capability is no longer there because I can now place it side by side with another element. So let me just copy this line and paste it right there. And I'll just align this. Now you see, both div can now stay side by side. This is the behavior of an inline block element. Okay, so if you go back to, remember I just added this one for the explanation sake, so I'm going to remove it and maybe remove this also. All right, so let's work with this. I will remove the background color. I'm doing this to explain other things. Another thing we can do is we can add a border line, and border line takes a few number of values. It takes the type, the size, and the color. So I can say the size or the thickness should be maybe 1 pixels, and I need a solid line and then maybe a color blue. So you see, I have a line drawn. So with that, let's try to build or to have this preview that we are working on. Oh, where's that thing? Right, this one. Let me put it one side and maybe bring it down. Let me bring it down somewhere here. And so we can see everything together. Okay, now I'm done with the outside line, but let me make it a bit bigger. It's a preview. Let me set the preview width to something bigger, maybe 200 pixels. All right, something like that. Or maybe 200 pixels or so. Good. Now, this is the preview that I just styled. This outside one. This one. This very one. Now remember, I still have 2 more divs inside. And this one still have 2 more items. Now this first one is the image. Remember, I only change the default behavior of this parent div. This div is the parent of this other div. This is the first child. This is the second child. Okay. If I change the behavior of this, it does not affect the behavior of the children. The children are also div. So what will happen to the children is they will still behave as a block level element within the width of their parent. In other words, they will take the entire length of their parent. And if I go further to alter their behavior, then I cannot give a customized display to them. But I only change the display of the parent, so it will not affect the display of the child. The child will still maintain that block level behavior. All right. I don't have an image here, but let me see if I can just. Okay, let's just work that. So this is my entire preview. So let me target this thumbnail preview. Let me target the thumbnail preview right here. Now remember, it's a block level element, and block level element takes the exact size of their container. So I will not alter that because I need it to take the size of their container. But what I can do is I can alter the width. First of, let me change the background color so that we can see what I'm talking about. I will change. Okay, let me not put background color. Oh yeah, let me use background color. Let me say maybe red. I have no idea how that color comes. Red. How do we spell red? Okay. So now you see it takes the entire weight of the parent. It's still behaving as a block level element even inside the parent. So I can set a height of maybe, let me say 100 pixels right there. Maybe I can make it bigger, maybe 150. Okay, let me try to increase to maybe 250. I think I like it this way, or 300. Okay, that looks great. Now let me target the video info also. Video info in my styling dot video info, and background color I can make that, I don't know what color is this. I'm not sure the color is visible. Let me say blue and set a height of 50 pixels. Now look at what's happening. If I remove this red, you see it's now taking the width also of the parent. So let me bring back the red. So I will just change, let me copy this and bring this here. Then I'll just change this to red, and then I will change this one. I'm just changing their border color, maybe green, so that you see what's going on. So now this is how everything looks. But you see, I'm having an empty space here. I set the height of the preview to this, and then the height of this to this, and then the height of this to this. Now a few things we can do. If I come back to the parent here, the space between the parent and every other element is what is referred to as padding. For instance, if I set padding here to maybe, let me give you something ridiculous, maybe 20 pixels, you will discover that the space, this is the parent, the blue line is the parent, the red and green are the children. So the space that exists between the parent and every other element, or what you can call the internal space, is what refers to as the padding. The padding. Now, external spacing, that is the space between the environment of an the external environment of an element, is what is referred to as margin. So if I need a space from my browser around the parent element, so I can set that imagine, let me set it to something bigger that we can see, 50 pixels. So you see the difference between a padding and margin. Okay, I can also do the same with the parent element. Let's assume this place where they join together, I want to create a space there. So the reason I'm doing this is to show another form of uh, margin. Now, what I'm going to explain now applies to padding. You can specify which direction you want to apply your padding. For instance, if I want to apply margin to this place, because the space, I want the space to appear here. Now remember, this child also has its own environment and then has its own inner content. And if I want to apply a margin that allows space in between this place on this particular red one, I will apply the margin at the bottom. On the other hand, if you want to apply the margin on this green, then you apply it at the top. If I'm applying to the red, I apply on the bottom. If I'm applying to the green, I apply at the top. So let's go now. Let's say I want to apply to the red. So I will just say margin bottom, and I'll set that to maybe 20 pixels. 20 pixels. So you see there will be a space in between them here. If I now notice that um my the children are overlapping, and the reason for that is because I have set a fixed width for the parent. For instance, if I remove the width now, it becomes flexible. The more the spacing, the more the sizes of the children tends to increase the size of the parent. So that's the whole idea. The same vein, if I remove this margin bottom here because I'm applying on the red, if I apply it on the green, so it will be margin top, set that to 20 pixels, like this. You see there is no difference. But then let me remove it and save it. Now this is how it was. And if I bring back the margin top and then save, you see it does exactly the same thing as when I gave a margin bottom to the red. So this is how to manipulate div, and you can move them all around. Now another thing, the moment you alter, let me remove I wanted to remove something. Yeah, this, let me remove the margin here. Okay, now the moment you remove an element, a block level element, into an inline block level element, you now have that flexibility to position that element to any area of your screen. This is what I mean. Initially, when I inserted the div tends to take the entire width of my web page. But now I've destructured it. I have turned it into an inline block level element. I remember I said when you make an element inline block, you are trying to say you want to be able to place those elements side by side. That's what you are saying. Now, making an element an inline block gives you another advantage of positioning that element to any area of your screen. For instance, the element is currently seated at the top left corner of my screen. If I want to move it maybe to the bottom, I can say or left right, let me say right. I can set that to 0 pixels. Why is it not going? Sorry, I was putting it on the wrong place, on the parent. It was the parent we set to display inline block. So I can say maybe right, and I say 0 pixels. Why is it not moving? Okay, okay. I think I know what happened. I still need to do one more thing. But before I go do that one more thing, please, do we have any question from this point? Let me quickly see if I can share a picture we can use. Please, any confusion so far? Am I audible?
None from my end.
Okay, please, are you understanding what I've been saying?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Uh, Let me quickly share an image that we can use probably. Okay, let me just receive that. Let me receive that quickly. That's correct. I'm trying to receive. Okay, all right, let's just proceed. So, for the sake of our diagram, I will reduce uh, the padding here just to make it small. Let me reduce the padding here to maybe like 2 pixels. All right, it's better like this. And this other one to 2 pixels also. Okay, this is our diagram. And where is the okay? So if you look at the bottom part, is further divided into two. this grid layer now. So let's go to that part of the code. You see, under the video info, we have two more divs, div1 and then another div. Now let's give this one a class of that's the uh, channel picture. Let's call it channel picture, and let's call this one, let's give this a class of, let's give that a class of uh, let's say I give it description. Let's give it description, description. Or yeah, video description, video description, description, like that. Now first, let's type this channel picture. I'll bring it to my styling here, dot channel picture, and right there. And let me also bring in this one, dot that. Try to style this also. Now it's also a block level element. We've not altered it because they are divs. They will also behave like every other block level element that you know. So let me just copy this and just put it here and then put it here. I can change this one to blue and maybe change this one to purple so that you can see. Now of course, if you can see very well, their block level, they've taken, let me increase their height. Let's give it a height of 10 pixels. Let's also give this a height of 10 pixels. All right, you see, they took the entire width of their container, the same behavior. Now how about if we now alter it? If I set this display to inline block, display to inline block, and also set this display to an inline block. Now you see, they are now side by side. They are now side by side, side by side, side by side. Now let me give the picture a width, a predefined width. Let's say maybe uh, 50 pixels, 50 pixels right there. And then we set this one to a block level element. And you see, if we set to a block level element, it breaks down because you don't want to share that width with anyone. That is the behavior of a block level element. So what do? We set a width of the original width was 300 and we have a padding of 200, so we are left with uh, 280, 80, 298, 298, and now we remove 50, so that means 249. Let's see, 249, 249 pixels. Let's say 200 pixels. Okay, 250 pixels. Okay, 245 pixels. It's not 50 or 45. Okay, still bigger. 240 pixels. All right. So let's say maybe 238 pixels. So right there. This is how we position them. Then the video description has two other elements. Mm, yes, which is the description or the caption, the name, and the stats. So those are just the titles and the stats. We can set, maybe put them all in paragraphs, maybe paragraphs, paragraphs. And we can say, I don't know, takes 3 minutes to know a man. Okay, they say it takes 3 minutes to know a man. That's the title, and I'm seeing the name there. I think Femi Lazarus, and the video starts there is 195K views, and then it was posted 3 months ago. 3 months ago. So if I save that, you see another problem has arrived. And what is the problem? Now I'm trying to explain the behavior of this element. Now, paragraph text, they are also block level elements, but then they also have a default uh, margin. They have a default margin. And how do I know that? If I right click on my browser, if I go to inspect, now, and then if I click on this icon, now you see right here, this is it. Let me click on that. You see it's saying it has a default margin right here. You see this orange or red color, whatever you want to call it, it's saying margin. It has a default margin of 16 pixels at the top and at the bottom, of course. And if you can see it on the page here, there are space here, that orange space, that is the default margin, and that's why you see it scatter up like this. Okay, that is another behavior of uh, paragraph. That's the default behavior of paragraph. And how can we take care of that? First thing, since they are all paragraph, just for this class, we can just target paragraph and remove that margin. We can just say margin and set that to 0, just 0, and you can now see those spaces between them have all been removed. They've all been removed. Okay, then we can go further and keep styling. Maybe you can change their color and all that. But then I just target the entire paragraph. We can target them individually, give them class. So we've been working with class and the default behavior of some element. So I don't want to take too much of time. I'm already 25 minutes out. We can say maybe title, title, and maybe class. We can say maybe author, and then class. We can say maybe views. Let's just call it views. Sorry for that. Now we can go up here and start to style them one after the other. For instance, I can pick this and author. I'll copy that. We do this. So our goal is by the end of this class, we should have a YouTube page created at least, so we can explain the whole concept, how you can go about developing your own interface. And this is why I'm taking my time out to describe these elements and how they behave. Now, for the title, one of the things we can do to a paragraph is to change the font. Maybe we can say font family. We can alter that font to, let's say, area, uh, area Levitical. Now you see it has been changed. I can set the color to black, and font size. These are the typical things that are applicable to a normal font. I can set that to maybe 13 pixels. I see if that is not too big. Uh, Now you see the original text there right here is capital letter, but we wrote our own in small letter, so you can change it to transform, text transform. You can transfer that to uppercase. You see it has become capital letter, so you can also make do with that. So let me change this to 12. And another thing you can do is to font weight. Font weight, we can set it to bold. You see my text is bold. Maybe I should, let me remove this so that you can, let me remove this so that you can see it clearly. All right, so we can also go ahead and style this font. Now observe something here. If I also want to change this font to the same thing, I will keep saying font, 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 font. But to minimize that, I can target the entire paragraph and give them the same font. So I can remove this font here. Since it's a paragraph, I will just bring it to my paragraphs here and give them one font. You see, all of them could take the same font. So best practice, don't repeat yourself. Try as much as possible not to repeat yourself. So if I repeat font size, font family here, and I come here, I'm also repeating font family, whereas I am giving them the same font. you are repeating yourself. It is called dry, the dry principle. Don't repeat yourself. So this is why I group all the paragraphs together and give them the same font family. All right. So for the font size, since they are not assuming the same size, so I can specify a different size. Of course, if you see from here now, the size here is smaller than the title. So I can say maybe 10 pixels maybe. How about if we say 12 pixels, 11 pixels. All right, that one is good for me. Now, if you look at the title here and this start, they tend to have the same size and the same color. Now, when you have situations like this, you can group those classes together and they will share the same size. For instance, I can group the author class and this view class to share the same size. Like I'll just put a comma here and call the next class dot view dot view, and they can both share. You see, they now have the same size and they also have the same color. I can set color to black or gray. It's not entirely black. Let's say gray right there. So this is another best practice that you can imbibe as you code. Do not repeat yourself. Group similar styling together. Those are the best practices. All right. So I may not need this one again because it shares the same styling as the author. So I just group the two of them together and give them a single style. So instead of writing the same styling multiple times, I can actually group that styling as one and then they both share the styling. So I would like to cut it short here and I will give as an assignment, try to complete this our layout here. We will continue from here in our next class so that we can go and relax. I believe we've all had uh, an hectic day, so I don't want to add to this. So as an assignment, try to see if you can create this preview on your own. We'll continue from here in the next class. We'll continue from here. So the goal is by the end of this class, we should be able to create this layout, the Facebook layout, exactly as it is. We should be able to create this layout by the end of this class. Please, do I have any question before we call it today? Any question?
From my end, none at the moment, sir.
So if there is no any question, please try as much as possible to attempt the assignment and we'll see you next week. And before then, keep practicing, keep writing, don't stop, always get your hands dirty, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Much, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.